Hello, Facebook community. Somebody's saying they can't find me. Oh gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. Hold on. And on profile. I'm just letting them know where I am. I am everywhere right now. Hello, and welcome to the finale of the Get Your Mojo Back 10-day challenge. And I'm live streaming everywhere. My name is Nicole M. Louie. I'm the social worker strategy mentor. That means I help social workers start and develop their independent practice. So whether you're completely new to independence and you don't even know what that is, or you're semi-independent and need to go full-time, I am here to help. And so that's what I do. I'm going to introduce myself and just share a little bit about my background in a moment, but just let you know I'm live streaming everywhere. I'm on the YouTube channel, LinkedIn, my Facebook profile page, the private Facebook community. I'm on, where else am I? Instagram, up here. Okay, so if you see my eyes darting up and down, it's because I'm looking at Instagram people and I'm looking at everyone else down here. And as usual, I have the comments at the side, so I will try to make sure that I'm following that. Oh, why is my screen sharing paused? No funny business now, Wi-Fi. No funny business. Where's my presentation gone? It's just disappeared. We are not doing this today. We are not, I repeat, we are not doing this today. Okay, let me stop my share and see if it will come back. My presentation just literally just disappeared. It's here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay, here it is. Okay, that was weird. So we are going to get started. Oh, I see what it's doing. Why is it doing that? That's weird. Okay, I may not be able to see the comments as well. Why is it coming up like that? That's bizarre. Okay, so we're going to go through everything. I'm going to go through everything with you. We're basically recapping today. All right. And the title of today's presentation is You Have Got Your Mojo Back, right? You have got your mojo back. So I'm hoping that, let me see if I can re-enter the broadcast here. Hey there, welcome to you joining. Okay, we're not going to do that. I don't know why, but my screen seems to have split itself, and like technology really does not like me some days, and I don't know why, because I love technology, but we have kind of a love-hate relationship at the moment, and that is troubling at times. So where is my other screen? Where has it disappeared to? How did I pressed something? I saw when I pressed something, and I don't understand what I did. And I'm using a Mac, and this happens with Macs, that you can do a lot of fancy things on it. Hi there, welcome on LinkedIn. I've done something to my screen where I've split it, and I can't seem to get it back. So, okay, I may not see all the comments. Okay, I may not see all the comments, but I'm going to ensure that I get back to the comments at some point. Okay, all right, here we go. So we're starting off recapping. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about myself. Nice to see you. They're on Instagram and everywhere else. If this is your first time joining the 10-day challenge. Where have you been? We are on day 10. It's the finale, but better late than never. And it's absolutely, this is the right day to turn up, because I'm going to recap over everything, all the salient points that you need to go away with if you leave with nothing else. Oh, thank you so much. And so I'm Nicole M. Louis. I'm the social work strategy mentor. I'm the CEO of Nicole M. Louis. And my background is in child protection social work. So I did frontline child protection stuff for more than 10 years. And I got pretty burnt out, but I loved the job. I loved working with families and children, helping families to stay together, and supporting them, really making transformations. And so I got kind of burnt out, as I said, and I went independent. I really jumped ship, didn't have a clue about business. I didn't know anything about business whatsoever, but I managed to generate 6 figures despite making loads of mistakes. And so my passion now is to help other social workers that are in a similar situation to what I was in, helping them make the transition into independence without the pitfalls that I made. And I created this challenge because many social workers that I'm consulting with and talking with are feeling overwhelmed. They're feeling like they're juggling too many different things. They've got personal difficulties going on, and they're experiencing a lot of negative thoughts and feelings, and they just want to be able to overcome that and get past the stuckness that they're feeling, and they want to stop avoiding the actions that they need to take to really get their mojo back, but also to start becoming independent, because that's going to provide them the flexibility. And so this challenge is really 10 days for us to reflect together, because I'm in this too, on our thoughts and feelings, making some connections, getting some control over what's going on externally for us, and get back on track. That's the main thing that we want to get out of this 10-day challenge. And it's important for us to do that because of the fact, as social workers, we do a very, very important job, right? So our job involves working with individuals, working with families, nuclear families who make up the communities in which we live and we serve. Like, we may not, as child protection social workers, I would hope, and this is something I always advise my clients, never work in the local authority that in which you live, right? And so we work and go out to work and help communities, but the reality is there are social workers doing exactly the same thing, right? They're coming into our communities and they're helping the people in our communities. And so we have a really big responsibility on our hands in terms of making up and supporting the fabric of the communities in which, society within the country that we live in is made up of. And so it's really important that for us, we are looking after ourselves and we are doing things for ourselves that allow us to serve from a place of overflow and not of deficit, right? And so we looked at some of the impacts that, the stress of the job entails, and how it affects us psychologically, emotionally, and even practically, because those are the 3 areas that we need to be focused on, and where we experience the difficulties the most. And so we looked at some specific areas. We looked at 10 particular areas that we call the hits. And I wanted you to look at these areas and figure out which ones of these are the ones that are popping up for you. So genetics we looked at. There's little that we could do about genetics once it's there, but there is a thing called epigenetics, which actually you're able to change the infrastructure of the bondings of your cells as you move forward. And that's from lifestyle, it's from therapy, and other various things that you're able to do. That can actually change it, but genetics for the most part is kind of there. There's little we can do. Addictions make up a part of a hit. We call it a hit because it's an area that we will struggle in, and that can really impact us and set us up for more long-term illnesses across the psyche, across our emotions, and then affecting us in a practical way. Our lifestyle, the toxins that we take in, again, we have 7 channels of elimination in our body, but the reality is we're living, most of us, in a city environment where we're using screens, where we're in a very polluted and congested area. So again, there are little things that we can do apart from excluding heavy metals and toxins from our diet and what we put on our body. Medical conditions also make up a huge part. So there are many social workers that are out there on the front line doing amazing work, but actually have got their own medical difficulties that they're struggling with all the time. And they just keep going and they keep going, and sometimes they ignore it. Developmentally, we think about what we've experienced from a developmental point of view, our own attachment styles, and how we're able to cope emotionally, and what styles do we use. Our circadian rhythm, that focuses on sleep in particular, and whether or not we are, in line, whether our body is really working in reverse or at its optimal, right? So sleep is a huge thing. And when we're sleep deprived, the amount of ways in which that impacts us psychologically and emotionally is profound, right? It's really profound. It even impacts nutrition and how we're able to absorb. So nutrition is another one. Like, are we eating at the right times in the right way? We spoke about the fact that, it's important that your body has regularity to function properly, even psychologically. Like it all is tallied up, and it communicates with one another, right? The brain sends in signals everywhere to the body all the time. And so your body knows that if you're eating at 4 p.m. every evening for your supper, your body actually starts getting the enzymes ready and getting the juices flowing to receive the food, to break it down. And we know that breaking down your food, digestion begins in the mouth. And so masticating your food, making sure you're swallowing properly, and you're actually able to digest it is important, because if not, it just sits in the colon, it ferments, and that's where a lot of disease begins, in the colon, right? And so these things, little things like this that might not seem important. I know when I worked in local authority, I always used to rush my food, always. Sometimes I skipped meals. I picked up some really bad habits, but little things like that actually accumulatively can have a real impact. So things like social grief and complicated grief. So we know that as social workers, we experience a lot of trauma, secondary trauma, and sometimes we are victims from a secondary point of view. So for example, when I've worked with clients where they've been at high risk of domestic violence, I became a secondary victim of stalking. Yeah, because the person who was actually stalking my client actually started harassing and stalking me. And so I had to get the police involved and all sorts of things. So we experience these kind of difficulties ourselves. And the frontal lobe is one of the hits. And all of these things that we've spoken about hits the frontal lobe. Like, it can completely shut down the frontal lobe, as well as other things. And we're going to come on to that in a little while. But I want you to look at, in these areas, which of these areas are you having some difficulties in? I want you to write them down. You're going to have an opportunity to get a workbook that goes with this presentation for free. You can join the mailing list for social workers that I have. They're called launchers, and I help them become independent. I send them tips every week and information. And so when you sign up, you can actually get a workbook for free where you can just take notes, write this down, and follow this process. So I want you to write down which of these areas, and the decision that you are going to make, with which hit you're going to focus on. You don't have to focus on all of them, but I want you to be really clear about which ones are a problem for you, and just focus on one that you can start making some headway in. Okay. The second thing that we started looking at on day 2 was your value. Who are you and what do you stand for? The reason why I wanted to go over this is the importance of us understanding who we are and understanding what we're about, what are our values, because that is really going to inform what we allow and what we don't allow for ourselves, what our boundaries are. Right? We need to be very clear on that. And it's something that I don't think we talk about enough, because, we're just so used to serving others and neglecting ourselves. Self-care is so important. And on day 2, we spoke in detail about the importance of self-care. We spoke about worthiness. We spoke about being desirable. We spoke about the importance of having boundaries and creating boundaries for ourselves, so that we teaching others how to treat us, right? So I speak to a lot of social workers that say that they get dumped on. Because they're so experienced, they get a lot of the complex cases. They get a lot of the difficult families, or families that are described as difficult to work with. And so they feel overloaded and they don't feel as though they've been valued. But the reality is if they don't value themselves and advocate them for themselves, how can they expect others to toe that line? Right? So it's really, really important that we understand our own value and our own worth. And so in day 2, we were looking at what form of self-care were you going to begin? Yeah. And if you're already doing some self-care, brilliant. I want you to think about some other things that you can do. Add another bow to that string, because you can never do too much self-care. Right? I love being pampered. I love massage, so much so I want to become a masseuse. I would love to become a masseuse and qualify and learn to do that, because I absolutely love massage. So that's going to be another bow that I add to my string. So what is going to be yours? So in day 3 now, we started going into understanding our personality, our looking at quadrants, right? We started to look at what is our personality type and what is our character type, because that again links with our value, who we are, the way we are. Do we think of ourselves in very negative terms, or do we see ourselves as very positive? You know, everybody has areas where they'd like to improve. Yeah, but the reality is there are a lot of areas that are our strengths, that are good things about our character and personality that we can maximize, that we can absolutely maximize. And so we looked at the 4 quadrants. We looked at choleric, and I was telling you that my lead is choleric. I didn't disclose what my second is, but I disclosed that choleric is my lead, because when I looked into it some years ago, and I saw that, you know, cholerics are kind of natural leaders. They are very, very assertive. Sometimes it can come across as aggressive. I'm bossy. You know, those are all maybe the not so nice things about me. I mean, the leadership one is good, but, you know, there are so many other things. Being passionate, being focused, efficient, all of those things are definitely me, like as a lead. But definitely like the impatience, for example, sometimes a bit abrupt I can be. So all of those things. So I know what areas that I want to develop, right, and work on and improve. And so I want you to look at this and either take a personality test. I gave a link. If you're watching this one for the first time, go back to day 3 and you'll see the link in the comments on my page, and you'll be able to get access to that link. It's free, or you can even Google just like personality type free test online and conduct one. I know some people that have been watching the live and following, they actually went ahead and did theirs and they found it very interesting. So that's a really fun thing to do. And look at which one is your area, which is your lead, and which is the secondary follow-up one. And just look at the strengths and really embrace the strengths that you have and maximize and just take that further. And the areas that I don't call them weaknesses, I talk about areas for development. You know, look at those things and say, okay, yeah, what can I do about those? Where else can I develop? All of these are help you to take responsibility and think about who you want to become and who you want to be, so you can be confident in yourself. The other quadrant that we looked at is a time management quadrant that was developed by Stephen Covey. This is really important and great for social workers who are struggling with managing time and having lots on their plate and thinking about what is urgent and what isn't. What do I need to deal with? What's important to deal with right now? The reality is most things are not urgent. And I gave an example that when you think about working in child protection teams, where all you deal with is child protection investigations all day, like everything's an emergency, right? Everything's coming in as an emergency. When the reality is there is no fire, nothing's burning down, no one's about to die immediately. So what has to happen is there has to still be a hierarchy of what's the most important to deal with. And you look at that in terms of the age of the child, for example. If it's, let's talk about a children family setting, what's the age of the child? You know, what is is there an injury? You know, when did this happen? What is the time scale? Do we have a time scale where there's bruising and we need to act fast? There are a number of different things that I looked at that help you understand, is this like urgent right now that we have to act on, or can this wait for tomorrow? And so is the same with anything else that you're dealing with, whether you're working in adults, whether you're working in a school environment, whether you're independent and working from home like myself, it doesn't matter. You can look at it in the same way. You've got to be clear about what are the tasks and the activities that you do that are real time wasters, right? Real tire kickers, I call them. You know, you want to be clear on that and eliminate them, and be clear about what is urgent and important and what is not urgent and what is important. So be really clear about it. And if it's urgent and needs to be done, then you want to be prioritizing it and really evaluate, is it urgent, or is this something that just causes me anxiety? And we're going to look at some of the feelings and our thoughts that are helping us stay stuck and get into this place of not feeling like we're developing, or like we're getting where we want to get to, or doing what we want to do, or feeling trapped and stuck. We're going to look at some of that in a little while. So this is a really great matrix that you can use in a quadrant also. So on day 3, the decision that you were going to make was, which quadrant do you want to focus on? Do you want to focus on the personality thing and looking at what your character is like, or do you want to look at your time management? Which one's most important for you right now that you want to focus on? And so that's a decision that you were going to make. Now, when we went to day 4, we started looking at the brain, and we were kind of going deeper now. So after we've looked at the personality and the character, we've looked at, you know, time management and how we're responding to things and thinking about what we're doing, being very conscious. We actually started looking at the brain and understanding that it's split into so many different places, so many different regions and areas within our within the brain itself. There's so many different regions, but the one that we wanted to really focus on was the higher functioning element, which is the frontal lobe, right? And so we wanted to talk, we went into quite a bit of detail about it, but I want to just highlight what the hits are for the frontal lobe. So the areas, the things that will actually compromise the frontal lobe, right? Those are the things that I want us to be focused on, because those are the things that we need to resolve so that our frontal lobe has a better chance of working better for us and more creatively for us. And that's important. Again, why? Because the work that we are doing is hugely important. And so we want to make sure we are working at our optimal and at a place of overflow as opposed to deficit. So a low carb diet, high meat intake and cheese diet is not great. Plant-based is like the best diet for frontal lobe optimal functioning. Regular entertainment and TV is not great. Why? Because they have it's kind of like a every 3 seconds, they seem to change the point of reference, which means, you know, the scene changes. There's a scene, a reference that changes. And that means that it's kind of like you're getting into a hypnotic state. Okay. And so what happens is the frontal lobe shuts down. There is very little activity that goes on the frontal lobe when you're watching television, unless the points of references are very spaced out, and unless it's something educational. And so it's not all bad. TV isn't bad, but it's just the entertainment TV that probably isn't so great, that you want to be reducing. The complex and syncopated rhythm music is not great. That means the complexity of rhythms and musical instruments, depending on how it's put together, can be very difficult for the frontal lobe. It is a hit for it because, again, it shuts it down. There is some music, but it's more classical or peaceful kind of sounds, kind of that ASMR style music that you might listen to. Raindrops, nature sounds are very good and soothing for the frontal lobe. And does not put your frontal lobe into a hypnotic state. Hypnosis is another thing that is not great. And some Eastern meditation also can be difficult, because, again, it puts you in, it utilizes some hypnosis elements in the way it asks you to kind of empty the mind and kind of not quite been cognizant to what's going on in the present moment. Going against your conscience is something that is really problematic for the frontal lobe. And I spoke about psychopaths and sociopaths and the fact that they are as they are because they don't have a frontal lobe that is functioning, right? It's severely compromised. That's usually as a result of significant childhood trauma. And so they would require a complete lifestyle change and overhaul, but also years of intensive therapy, probably for the rest of their life. And so that, you know, it is very difficult to work with sociopaths. Addiction is another thing, and no abstract thinking. These two also compromise the frontal lobe. And so, the reason why it is so important that our frontal lobe, next to all the other ones, are working, especially for us as social workers, is that it's the place where we do problem solving. It's the seat of our judgment. And we are obviously making huge judgments and huge decisions and recommendations for children, young people, vulnerable adults. And it's really important that we're kind of getting that right. Now, I say that not to say we're not always going to get it right all the time. We're going to make the best decision we can with the information that we have, but it's that critical thinking. It's again that abstract thinking, and being able to do that consistently with various different families that have different nuances in a fast-paced environment. At some point something gives, right? And so planning is where our frontal lobe comes. Awareness of our abilities, our self-monitoring comes from there. Our personality, so we just spoke about that in terms of our character type and our personality type, and controlling our behavior. So again, going back to sociopaths and those the like, they obviously are not able to do that. There's no social boundary. They don't understand those kind of things. Our limitations is also seated in our frontal lobe, and initiating things are seated in our frontal lobe. So you can see that there's a lot there that happens, and it's important that we're helping our frontal lobe, because it will help every other area also, in the mind, but also just in the body. So we spoke about some things that we are able to do. We're able to eat and think and do certain things that will actually maximize and support our frontal lobe. So eating certain foods that are high in all of these areas, tryptophan, especially in selenium. Why? These are really good for frontal lobe, because depression, when you've got depression or anxiety or stress, which for a lot of social workers that I've spoken to, they're actually feeling quite depressed. They're feeling very low, certainly stressed, high levels of stress, a lot of cortisol surging through the body all the time. And what happens is when that prolongs, it actually turns into a completely different chemical, which is really dangerous for the body. And so, there are certain foods that we can eat that will actually help the frontal lobe and aid it in developing and helping the body, and thinking very positively, doing certain things like CBT. And we're going to talk a bit more in a little while about the frontal lobe and looking at emotional intelligence and the like, so that we can start looking at that in some more detail, things like CBT. But there are also some things that we are able to do. So these things are really important. The abstract thinking, meditation and prayer, particularly Christian meditation and prayer, because of the typology that it is. So when you're doing biblical studies, for example, there's a lot of abstract thinking in that, like in Psalms and Proverbs. And so these are really good things. So whatever faith that you're in, if you're Islam, read the Quran, there's going to be abstract thinking in that. So these are really positive things that you are able to do to assist the frontal lobe. So the day 4, your decision was that you were going to look at your health and think about, what are you going to stop or start watching, listening, doing, eating. Yeah, pick one. If you want to be an overachiever and pick more than one, that's great. Do that too. That will be a benefit to you. But, just focus on one, because obviously you're doing quite a number of things over the course of these days. Okay, so then we went to day 5. And we looked a bit more at this amazing thing that God has made called the brain. It is only 2% of the entire body weight, but it is so powerful. It has so many neurons that communicate simultaneously throughout the body and with one another. Like, it is an amazing thing. And this is why I've really spoken a lot about it, because in going through what we're experiencing, when we feel a bit deflated, when we feel stuck, when we feel stressed, when we feel anxious, when we feel as though we can't go on like this, juggling all these different things, we just want to get out. I'm telling you, we need to understand what's happening with our brain at that time, and what's happening in our body and how we're feeling. And so we started looking at emotional intelligence and the 5 key components. So knowing your emotions, being able to manage your emotions, being able to recognize the emotions in others, being able to manage relationships, and being able to motivate yourself to reach your goals. all of these are so key because we're in a situation that we want to get out of. And so for some, it's becoming independent. For some, it's just being able to get through the hurdle of, this month because something's happening this month. For some of us, it's just, we're at work and we want to change jobs, or we want to move up the ladder, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It might not even be work related. It might be that you actually want to gain weight or lose weight, or you want to end a relationship, or you want to tackle a difficult relationship with a family member. Whatever it is, like, these are the components that you're going to need. And you can see the relevance between understanding the brain, the frontal lobe, and you being motivated to actually take action towards that step. So we spoke about the fact that in emotional intelligence, this Greek philosopher Epictetus, he was around the time, it was AD 35 to 135, I believe. And he says that our beliefs and our views of the world determine our emotions, our feelings, and our behavior. So we might perceive that there's a particular issue or stressor, and we're saying that that's the cause of why we're feeling how we're feeling. And it certainly is a trigger, but is it the cause? And so we look at the actual, sometimes the trigger isn't even actual. It might be a perceived, it might be a fear of what might be. And so we get very worried about that. And so the belief about that and the self-talk that happens in terms of it being automatic, subconscious, can be rational or irrational, right? And so what are we thinking about the situation? Because that determines the outcome, the aftermath, which is a very emotional response. And that leads to whether we take action or not, and what type of action we take. And so it's really important. This is like the hub of where we are. We're in this losing our mojo and feeling stuck. Like right here is like the eye of the storm. Okay, I want you to think about it like that, because when we get this is very powerful. And I'm saying that as somebody who uses it myself and have learned to use it. It is very powerful. So let's take an example. You have 2 assessments and a report to write up by, let's say this week. When I presented this, I used Friday because it was imminent. So I'm going to say by Tuesday. Okay. And the belief in the self-talk is, I will never get it done because I have other tasks to do, and I always miss my deadlines. Right. And so the aftermath of that is that you feel internalized failure. Right? You procrastinate and you don't take on a hobby that would actually help you de-stress and manage, because like the deadline's right there. So you're like, there's no way I've got time for anything else. This is a nightmare. I'm never going to get it done. Right? And all of those feelings are culminated by your previous experiences of the same, of you maybe trying to hit a deadline and failing. And so what we don't see is the unspoken things that on the tapestry of our heart and our feelings that contribute to how we're feeling right here today. And I'm using this as an example, but I want you to maybe create an example for yourself in the situation that you were trying to overcome and get out of. So here's an idea of a more rational and more productive way. You've got 2 assessments and reports to write up by Tuesday, right? And you might say to yourself that I may not be able to complete this on time because it's unrealistic given other urgent deadlines. Okay, so that's realistic, that's rational. I know I'm good at my job and I care about the quality of my work. So the aftermath of that self-talk, automatic thought is that you're feeling calm. You're feeling calm because you already know it's unrealistic. There is no point in stressing yourself out and kind of throwing your hands up and being like, that's not going to help you, right? So you stay calm, you reprioritize your diary and what you've got, and you renegotiate your deadlines with your manager, right? And sometimes you might just have to say, it's going to be out. It's going to be out. Yeah. And you end work on time. You have a nice hot bath to relax yourself, and you go at it tomorrow morning. You might get up a bit earlier and take the crack at the whip then. But it's can you see it's a very, very different process. And again, the first process, which is the irrational thoughts and the negative automatic thoughts, what that does is actually sets you up it just adds, we know about neurological pathways being created. Well, when you start thinking rationally, it creates new neurological pathways in your brain, and you're actually able to experience better the next time a similar or the same event happens. And then you're able to transfer that experience to other areas. So you become better at managing stress. The reason why this is so important is that the impact of stress, of anger, of fear, of emotional turmoil and distress, in things like hair loss. I had a social worker DM me once. I think I shared a post about me making my hair products and stuff like that. And she was sharing that she's losing her hair and she thinks it's stress related, right? Blood pressure, high blood pressure, immune system in particular goes down, and that your immune system is everything. If those little white blood cells are not rampant and rearing, and all the various cells, T cells and different cells that make up the various elements of your white blood cells, if they are not working, I'm telling you, you are open to all sorts of diseases, nausea, heartburn, constipation, infections, skin rashes, vomiting. That's just to name a few. They're precursors to even depression, diabetes, other things that are really problematic, thyroid problems, right? And I want us to understand there are over 100,000 social workers registered in the UK, and we are all working in a very similar way, very stressed, fast-paced, struggling, feeling that we're having difficulties in managing life and work. And if all of us are feeling this level of stress and this level of pressure, and these negative thoughts, like, what does that say about how impactful we're actually able to be? And that's one of the reasons why I came out of frontline social services. And I'm not saying that that's the answer for everyone, but it works for me. And becoming independent allows me to manage in a very different way my stresses. And it allows me the time to do this kind of research and apply it into my life, because you need it regardless to what job you live in, what kind of job you work in, or where you live, because life is stressful anyway, right? So this is what we covered in day 5. And so what you were going to do is focus on your emotional intelligence and the impact of stress. And you were going to decide to yourself, what is it that I need to be more cognizant of, more focused on, in terms of, what I need to be addressing, the negative or automatic thoughts, and trying to take up now this idea of thinking more clearly about what is happening psychologically, emotionally, and then how I'm acting, and challenging that. Okay, so that was the thing that you're going to work on for day 5. Okay, so now when we moved into day 6, we recapped and spoke about the fact that our unconscious beliefs and the self-talk about the events that are happening to us is what causes the destructive emotions and then the behavior. So we were really looking at challenging that, and we were doing that based on how we move into our motivation, right? Because remember, the 5th thing about emotional intelligence was how motivated we were to reach our goals. And if our goal is to become unstuck, if our goal is to better manage the stress at work, to feel in more control of our cases as it's coming through, to just feel happier with whatever our portion is. Like, if right now we're going for a period in our team where we've had a lot of staff shortages and we're all having to take on extra work, like, how can I make myself get in psychologically to grips with that and still enjoy my work? Like, how can I do that? There are ways that we can do that by really checking what is the event that is happening to us, what are we feeling emotionally. And these are the things that are motivating crushers, right, on this screen, because these things are what's going to impact us from feeling and doing the process that we've just gone through of that emotional intelligence that gets us to that 5th stage, which is being motivated to reach our goals. Because if we're just stuck there, that's only going to help so far. We actually have to move it a stage further and start being motivated to change it and do something about it, right? So, okay, so poor sleep, dehydration, poor nutrition, depression, anxiety, confusion, and overwhelm, and having a lack of clarity are real motivation crushers, right? So we need to be able to look at doing the opposite of these things, but also making sure that we're in good health, having resources to de-stress. So that goes all the way back to our first session about valuing ourselves, right? Staying hydrated, coping with curveballs that will undoubtedly arrive and crop up in life, because that is what happens in life. Making sure that we have purpose. If we have purpose and we know where we're going and what we want to achieve and why and what we're doing, it allows us to kind of keep the trajectory, because we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We can see the destination. We just need to keep going. And so that allows us also to be hopeful and supportive. And all of these things together are huge motivation boosters, and we need that. So we need to understand what's happening for us. We need a plan, and we need systems that will give us the motivation and the momentum. We need the two, right? Motivation is great and you go, but then if you stop and then sit down for a while, you know, you delay all the time. There's constant delays, and sometimes you can lose out. Things can get in the way, and then you can end up just taking steps back, and then you've taken so many steps back that the road ahead seems so long. You're like, oh God, I can't get back up to start again. So you need the momentum, right, to keep you going all the time. And so I spoke about the fact that a couple of the systems that you can use. We went back and looked at the quadrant here, Steve Covey's quadrant, about being able to utilize a system like this when you're in your day-to-day work. Okay, that is going to help you prioritize, and even things like your planner. So my planner, I told you that you know, I created this planner, and this is the one that I'm using at the moment. It ends at the end of March, and I already have my next quarter, and I'm excited to start using it already, because I've already got things in this current one written down for the next quarter that I need to transfer. And so I'm excited about planning in more detail now this quarter. I know the overview of what I'm going to be doing. I know what I'm doing in quarter 4 and 3, but I'm not there yet, so I don't need to be thinking about it. So I'm getting ready now to put in the detail of quarter 2, and I'm really excited about that. I'm motivated, I'm focused. And so these are the kind of things you want. You want systems that will work for you, and this will incorporate your personal and your career. Okay, so those are the things that we were looking at. And then we looked at the journey, like being clear about what you want. So you've looked at yourself, you've looked at your personality, your character, you've looked at your emotion, your brain. You've looked at the different hits that you may be struggling, that you need to focus on. You've looked at your emotional intelligence and the areas that you need to focus on in terms of doing things for yourself, self-care, making sure you're challenging those negative and automatic thoughts, and making sure that you're boosting the opportunities for your frontal lobe to work out its optimal, but also for you to remain motivated and focused. And so you need to be clear about what you want, how you're going to get there, and making sure you've got systems that will support what you're doing, rather than just having one target, getting to the target, and that's it. Like, have systems that will take you and carry you, because the reality is, as you start to achieve your goals become bigger, your desires become different, and you move on to the next stage as you develop. And so you're cultivating habits, and you're planning and tracking, and you need to remain focused. And so at the end of day 6, you were going to choose a part of the journey that you were going to focus on. Is it what you want? Is it revisiting how you're going to get there, your systems, your habits, planning and tracking, staying focused? What is it that you're going to focus on? And that is what you're going to take into day 6, right? And then into day 7, we spoke about and went a bit deeper in terms of this journey. What are the 3 things that it needs to do? You need to be discomforted, right? That sounds crazy, I know. You need to be discomforted, because if your goal does not scare you, then your goal is not big enough, quite frankly. Like, we're not doing anything mediocre. We're social workers, and we do big things, and we expect big things of our clients, right? Of the people that use our service, we expect them to do some really challenging things under real stressful circumstances. And so it would be remiss of us to not be able to challenge ourselves to do things for our own selves, to move ahead and get ourselves forward. And in particular, because this actually has a direct impact on how we are able to serve those same clients. You know, when they're going through difficulties and struggles, we can share how we've done it. Yeah, we can impart this information to them, right? And so our discomfort, it allows us to expand, stretch, and develop, challenging ourselves, help us to challenge our time scales and the time that we're using. Are we using our time effectively, being realistic and being very intentional, and our mindset changing so that we can actually be targeted in what we're doing, having clarity in what we're doing and being specific, right? So these are the 3 areas that we want to be focusing on our journey. And we looked briefly at how we're actually able to create goals. So this is a system that I use, and that's actually in my planner that I use to look at my goals in detail, looking at what the steps are, what the hurdles are, what the solutions are, and tracking and planning them. Because, you know, anything that you want to desire to do, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm encouraging you on this journey, 10-day journey, write it down, because a goal is just a wish if it is not written down. If you're not being intentional, if you're not stretching yourself and challenging your mindset and thinking about what you're doing, you will fall flat on your face, and you need to be reviewing it. So thinking about what your ideal week looks like, how are you going to incorporate this, all of these different moving parts that we've already discussed? You need to be able to diarize it, right? So whether you use an electronic diary or calendar, whether you use Outlook, whether you use a planner like me, you know, whatever it is, you need to have a day structured from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed. Your time needs to be ordered the same way. When your money comes in, it has a pot that it sits in. Every penny is accounted for. Every hour and every minute of your day should be accounted for. Yeah. And by that, I don't mean all work and no play. I absolutely mean work and play and other things in between. So you should be having your self-care, you should be having time for family, friends, socializing, your shopping activities and housework, your reading, your learning, your work, as I said. If you're trying to become independent, activities towards that. If you're doing a hobby, taking up a hobby, your actions towards that. It needs to be incorporated within your week. Yeah. And some of the things, if you do know taking up a new hobby, might not be every week. It might be every once a fortnight. That's fine, as long as it's diarized. So your time is actually there in your calendar that is specific for that time, and nothing interferes with that. You honor that time. You honor that time that you give to yourself. So at the end of day 7, you are going to create your goals. If you have not kind of thought clearly about what is it that I want to achieve, like for the end of this quarter, for the end of this year, whatever your time scale is, you would have done that, right? And you'd be very clear about that goal. So we're not talking about anything wishy-washy. We're setting a date. We are setting a date and a time for it. Let me just get rid of that alarm, because that alarm is going to keep showing up. We're setting a date and a time for it. Well, not a time, but a date for it. So it's not, I said time because the thing just popped up. Sorry if I paused on Instagram. Alarm came up on my phone. So we're being intentional and clarifying our goals and not having a wishy-washy goal, but being very clear about what the date is for it. So then in day 8, we talk about our comfort zone. Why? Because when we start looking at goals, it starts getting real. Right? We're not just talking about saying, yeah, I'd like to do this, I want to do this. The rubber is now hitting the road, and we are actually talking about being intentional and making it happen, right? We are actually taking the action that we need to take and doing something about it. So we spoke very much about right now being in our comfort zone, and even in our comfort zone, we can feel uncomfortable. But you know, the reason why, even though it's discomfort and it's uncomfortable, it's still our comfort zone, because we're familiar with it. And that's safe. We know what it feels like, and we're just going through the motions of always feeling like this. And so we stay there and we stay stuck. Why? Because the fear of the unknown and the work that we have to do and having the motivation to do it is like, I can't even think about that right now. That's just like another thing to do. And so it's easier to stay where we are. But the reality is that we're like dying inside. We're buckling under the pressure. We can't keep on going. And we're doing a disservice to ourselves, but to those that we serve. Because if we're in this level of bad shape, then there's no way we can be, we're compromising the quality of what we are doing for others. And I want you to really sit in that for a moment. Like, we have to get real with ourselves and be honest, and recognize where we might be lacking in serving others. You cannot serve from a place of deficit. It has to be from a place of overflow. And so if you're feeling caught up right now, when you're struggling a lot and you're just feeling all those things that I mentioned right at the beginning, feeling stuck, avoiding what you know you need to do, avoiding and the stagnation, the moving forward, avoiding tackling and addressing things that need to be addressed, you know, whatever it is, you know, it's going to be having an impact. And so we spoke about coming out of that comfort zone and getting into the fear zone. Getting into that zone and being okay that it's scary right here, right now. And this is the reason why I'm scared. So going back to emotional intelligence, what are my emotions? Naming them, right? And so now you know what they are, and you understand where it's coming from. Now you could do something with it. Now you can say, okay, so that's why I'm feeling scared. It's not even really about this. It's about that other thing that happened that I failed on X amount of years ago. Well, that's something different. So what can I do? What went wrong there? And what can I do to remedy it so that I don't fail in this situation? Now you're in a place where you're learning, right, about how to do something different, and then you can grow, then you can move forward. And this can be applied to anything. I don't care whether it's a relationship, I don't care whether it's stuff related to work, whatever it is, you can apply it to various things. Tackle one thing after the other. Prioritize it, right? That's what we spoke about in day 6, where we started prioritizing those goals. In which quarter do you want to focus on which goal? Yeah, so all of it is like a domino effect. And we spoke about looking at our habits, because if we're not clear about how we are spending our time, how are we going to address these things? How are we going to get out of our comfort zone? How are we going to progress and take the action that we actually need to take to move forward? Because we've got the motivation now, we want to keep the momentum, we've got the system, we're clear that we're using our skills from emotional intelligence, understanding about our automatic thoughts and the things that are keeping us back. But actually, what good is it if we're not actually implementing it on a day-to-day basis? That's what we need to be doing. And when we start thinking about it being another task to do, it's too overwhelming to think about actually taking action. And so really and truly, when we start looking at what our habits are and what we're doing with the time that we have available to us, we start realizing that actually we're spending time on the things that we shouldn't be spending time on. A bit like when we looked at Steve Covey's quadrant, right? The time management one, we realize that we're doing things that are not serving us. They keep us comfortable and in the comfort zone, even if they're making us feel bad, like we're committed to it because it's what we know. But actually, it's a time waste. It's a waste of time. It's actually shutting down our frontal lobe. It's not giving us the motivation that we need and helping us to really move forward. And so I spoke to you about the fact that this is a system that I use and that I teach social workers and that I have available in the plan. And this is the kind of feedback that just a couple of the social workers have experienced. Like if you look at Sophia said that she's a lone parent. She's in a full-time job, frontline child protection. And she said that she found it so useful. And what is really helping her is the fact that she's putting her goals down on paper and that they are realistic. That is really, really important to understand, that having realistic goals is the first step. And then Trisha spoke about the fact that using that plan also accompanying with the goals is that just after 2 days of using it, it was a game changer in her reaching those goals that she became crystal clear on. She was able to manage her time better and she was accountable to get the work done. Right, to get the work done. She feels more productive and she's got tools that she's able to use more effectively. And she was actually able to achieve one of her goals and land one of a new job that she wanted to land, which was amazing for her, where she was feeling really stuck. So she said, if this is for you as a social worker, if you are stuck and you want to make a change right now. So listen, even if you did not buy the plan and you just implemented what we have spoken about, like this is an amazing, go through all of the 10 days. The 9 days that we've just gone through and implement this stuff, because this will get you moving, right? And the main thing is that you have to be taking action consistently. And that's why you need to put it in a system, what your actions are, every day so that you've got the momentum. Like, I already know what I'm doing next week. I already know what my diary has got, the stuff in it of what I'm doing next week. It's planned. It's like I've got the overview of it, and I also have it in detail. And this is important. This is what all of February looked like. Yeah. So I've already got stuff in here, and there's more stuff to put in there still. So you've got to be really clear and have your time ordered. All that keeps momentum, because I don't have to think about, oh my God, I've got this to do, I've got that to do. Like, I have to get things out of there and on paper, because it just stresses me out. I've got so many different things I'm juggling, from health to home life to clients to things, other things that I have planned for the rest of this year that I want to be achieving and doing. Like, my mind is like, sometimes. So I have to get it out, and it has to be in this. And now I know that it's in there. I don't worry about it. I don't need to think about it. If it comes up in my mind, I'm like, yeah, that's covered. That's it. I've already put that in the diary. It's good. I'm good to go. So I can just be present right here. I can just do it, do what I need to do, and be present in this moment, and honor my word and honor the commitment that I have to this moment to do this task. Yeah. And don't quit. Just be consistent, so that at the end of day 8, you are choosing a zone to move out of and to move into, and you are going to track your time. You're going to do that exercise so that you can actually be crystal clear on what you're doing. This is really important. Okay. And then we moved into yesterday, which was day 9. We moved into accountability being the greatest gift that you can do, because now you've come this far, and you got your list, and you've tracked your habits, and you know what you need to be doing. Your goal is crystal clear, and you've got it all down. You need an accountability. It's great that you've got it in your diary, your planner, on your calendar, but what's going to help keep you motivated and continue giving that momentum is not just the system, but it's the accountability to underpin that system. The accountability to underpin that system. And so your mindset, we spoke about, is one of the big things that will stop you from being accountable, because you'll come up with excuses, you'll blame situations, people, on why you've not got as far as you can, because you're not looking at yourself, and you're justifying why you haven't taken the steps. And you'll even sometimes be in denial about it. And so what happens from an action point of view when you're in that state is you start to avoid, you procrastinate, and you even seek allies that will contribute and support your thinking and your justifications, and it will help. They'll help. Not, they don't mean to, and they don't realize that they're even being an ally. They don't even know what's going on, and you don't even, from a subconscious point of view, but that's what's happening. And you actually self-sabotage, right, your progress. So what accountability does as a beautiful gift is it gives you the responsibility and ownership, right? So you become responsible for your own progress, right? You get power, you get control, and you get to manage that situation. And your accountability buddy, what they will tend to do is keep you accountable to the point where they will ask questions of you. They'll ask, but you said you were going to get it done by this day. Why haven't you done it? Why haven't you done it? You said you looked at the plan, you looked at the goal, you broke it down, you knew what you needed to do, and you said on this day, this was just one of the small pieces that was going to get you to this. And you're saying that you were too busy, or you said that you got home and you were tired, but you're always tired. That's not going to be, that's nothing new. You're always tired. So when will you ever get it done? Like, we need a date and a time that you're going to get it done in your plan, in your calendar, and you need to do it. So they're going to keep you accountable. Yeah, they're gonna just having to say it to them and have to give an account. The greatest consequence is having to face them and give them a lame excuse, right, as to why you can't get it done. Because busy isn't really an excuse, is it? Or a reason why you can't get something done, because we're always busy all the time. And what we find is that having done the habit tracker, we realize that actually we have time at our disposal. We do have time. Usually when social workers do that activity, if we look at the amount of hours that we sleep in 24 hours, our 24-hour period, 7 to 9 hours. When you actually look at your work time, you're working about 7 hours, but let's add a couple of hours on top of that, make it 9, because the reality is we work late most of the time. So even with that, by the time you've looked at all that and you've taken all that into account, you still have about 7 hours left for various tasks, be it housework, going and doing your shopping, doing some reading, learning, taking up a new hobby. You choose what you want to do, and you're not going to do all of it every single day. You're going to say one day of the week you're going to do your hobby, one day of the week you're going to be or 2 or 3 days of the week you're going to prioritize a good house clean, and tidy up in depth. You're going to tidy up as you go, but you're going to give some special attention maybe 3 times for the week. You're going to do shopping once a week. So you've got hours at your disposal. It's about how you manage your time and how you're a good steward of your time, and where you choose to invest your time. When we invest in things that we find important, and it goes right back to all the way number 1, where we looked, or day number 2, where we looked at valuing ourselves. If we genuinely value ourselves and we understand the need for us to be in a good place where we can serve others, we will value ourselves, and we will see that having that hobby, having that time for rest and relaxation, going for a walk, spending time with family is a value that we should not compromise on. So it's loving ourselves enough, right? And so we need to think about the costs associated with actually, not doing these things. All these things that we've spoken about for the past 9 days, the cost of us not doing this is what? We stay stuck, and we don't just stay stuck. We actually get deeper into the trench of the problem that we are experiencing. That is the reality. And we're so caught up in it that we don't even realize that it's got worse, or that we're sinking deeper. Sometimes we feel it, but we don't actually recognize the level and the depth that we have sunk down into. And so this is a huge thing that we need to overcome. This is a huge thing that we need to be cognizant of and that we need to focus on, so that we can actually take steps and progress in the places that we want to progress in. So somebody's just asked a question. I'm going to look at the questions in a moment. So we're looking at the cost, and I've just stopped the screen sharing now, and I'm just want to focus in on you and talk with you a bit about where do we take this from here. Okay, so you've looked at all of these things, right? We've looked at a lot. I've just gone through everything that you could possibly go through, and what you need to be doing to get your mojo back. And I'm hoping that for those of you that have followed every day, that you have got your mojo back, that this has been uplifting, enlightening. Please put in the comments if it is, how it has been for you. I know some of you have put comments on the odd replay and when you've been live, but I want you to really be able to tell me, how has it felt? How's the process felt going through this? What has this been like? And also, what actions have you taken? Like, list them for me. And I want you to tell me, what have you overcome? What wins have you already experienced? They don't have to be big wins. It's about the small steps. This is like the key thing that I say to my clients, like, becoming independent, your goal to become independent is not about you saying, right, in 2 months I'm going to be independent. It's about you taking the small steps. Every little thing that you take, whether it's to sit down and write a list about what you need to do, that is one step towards where that ultimate goal, like the journey is so far ahead, because there's so many moving parts to a thing. It doesn't matter whether it's becoming independent, whether it's about sorting out and getting your home life organized, and your rooms around you organized, so that you're in a better place to actually be productive. It doesn't matter what it is, you can actually see that there are so many moving parts to it. And so we have to be really clear that every little step you take is an important step. And so right now, I'm going to share with you 3 ways in which you can work with me. If you want to take this further and take this to the next step, where you've got the accountability, where you've got the support to do certain things, then this is going to be for you. So there's going to be one thing that I'm offering. It's a members only goal crushing container. Okay. And this is going to be a container where we do it once a month. Okay, every quarter. I'm thinking about extending that, but at the moment I'm just thinking about this on a once a month for our entire month. We come together. It will be a maximum of 10 social workers to come together, and what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at what are the things that we are working on that maybe you've taken from this challenge, and you're going to be we're going to be creating our week on week, in the month. You're going to be creating it, and putting down what we're covering for the week. What are the things that you need to achieve? So it will be whatever that goal is, in addition to all the other things that you are going to be focusing on. Okay, i.e. your work. You're still going to be working, you're still going to have family commitments and all those other things. That is going to be diarized or put in your planner or your calendar, whatever it is. And then every week you're going to be I'm going to be buddying you up with somebody, and you're going to be accountable to one another to make sure it gets done. Okay, and I'm going to be overseeing that. You'll have options to get accountability directly from me to take you that bit further. So that is one option that you're going to be able to work with me on. I am considering extending this as something that happens, as I said, more frequently, and maybe opening it up to a completely wider audience, where I have more people in there, and buddy you up, and then you just get the access to me if you want it, but I'm giving you the guidelines and the tools. So those are two different ways in which I'm going to be structuring that goal crushing container. So if that is something that you are interested in, I want you to put goal crushing in the comments, whether you're watching this on the replay or whether you're live, and I can send you information about it. I'm going to have a certain minimum number of social workers in it to make it work and make it be fruitful for you. Okay, so if I don't get the numbers, then we're just not going to do it at this time. Okay, but it might be something I'll do in the future. I'm just being completely honest with you. Yeah, so that's one way. If you specifically are a social worker that wants to explore independence, because that's like my remit, that's what I do. My thing is about mentoring social workers to become independent. What I'm showing you, there are two ways in which that you can work with me. Another way that you're able to work with me. So one way is having consultations, and kind of I give you a map and an outline of what you need to do, and you go off and do it. You need to be highly motivated. You need to be able to commit and do accountability, because I'm not going to be there to help you implement it or anything like that. You've got to do it yourself. The other way, where you're able to get the assistance to become independent, my enrollment is open now. I have a program which is a 6-month program, and there's 6 months of support built in. We start in April. It will be April the 4th we start, and it's really for social workers who are confused about where and how to start independent practice. They want a structured learning with a strong support network, and they want to utilize all their years of experience and their skills, right? And they want to save time and money by avoiding costly mistakes, which is what I had to experience, right? And so I give you a blueprint, an entire blueprint. And it's for people, social workers, who want to learn a way of a business model that is recession proof, and where you're not having to focus on funding and tendering, right? And somebody who's ready to start taking action towards independence, being independent in the next year and a half. Yeah. So this program is not for you if you really don't want to change your mindset, your career, or your life. The program is not for you if you are not ready, or you don't want to learn different ways of being independent than what we know at the moment, especially here in the UK. I'm about breaking the mold and revolutionizing the way independence is being done, because I don't think it works very well at the moment. And for people who don't really want to make great progress in whatever they're trying to achieve, right? And if they're really not serious about being committed. So I'm going to tell you some of what is included in this program. It's drip-fed modules over a 6-month period with built-in support, an additional 6 months for you to fulfill and implement if you haven't quite got it done. Okay, and there's exclusive content. There's a private Facebook community where it's exclusive just for us on that program, where you'll get additional learning and support. And there's going to be something every week of the month. So every month a module is dropped. So it's drip fed. So you're not going to be overwhelmed with a load of content. You're not going to be sitting there watching a video for an hour. You get an online portal that you log into, that you look at. And the videos are not long. There may be 5 minutes, 2 minutes here and there, but every video has an action point that you have to go go away and do. And so it allows you to actually build your business from ground zero all the way up. Okay, there is going to be masterclasses by industry experts related to business and social work. They're live how-to tutorials. So I'm going to be showing you how to actually create a flyer. What are the aesthetics of a good flyer, of your website, all these different things. There's going to be additional learning through movie night where you can actually learn various things, and we're going to think about how we implement it into our business. And there's opportunities to ask me questions, although the access to me isn't exclusive. You'll get opportunities to ask questions, and you'll get peer support. So there's accountability, so work actually gets done, right? You're not just going to be watching a video, diarize it, say you're going to get it done. You're going to actually have the accountability, right? And you're going to have a lot of other things in there, such as business swipe files. So cheat sheets and done for you templates. An example is my terms and conditions. I have various ones for different products and services that I do, but my basis of my general terms and conditions, I paid over £500 for a barrister and a solicitor to be able to look over those so that I can ensure that they're correct. You get that for free. All you do is you swap the information out and we tailor it accordingly. And so you get things like that built in. And there are other things and other bonuses that you get on the program that when you go onto a page that I will share with you and have available, you'll see. So you have 6 modules. The pre-work, we actually look at your current personal and career life, and we look at how it's going to impact you moving forward. We prepare you and do the preliminary work to get you started on the process, giving you systems and processes to make sure that you get the work-life balance sweet spot. And then we look at 3 phases of the launch that goes over a 3-month period where we discover how to pandemic proof your business. We build your customer experience map so your clients keep coming back to you. We help you understand how to structure your services and your products, and you start creating them. And we look at your pricing, your marketing, how you're going to market yourself in terms of your website and various other things, and having a network of support. And then we develop your network and we look at partnerships that you can have. We look at your team so that you can focus on income generating activity and you know how to delegate and where to delegate. And then we look at how you're going to launch. So where the rubber hits the road, and we actually start looking at your launch date. Some people may have an unrealistic launch date of it being 3 months, 2 months, 6 months. We look at a realistic time that is suitable for you within the next year and a half, and you actually have a date that you're working towards. And if you need to extend it, hey, you can. But the fact is you have something that is realistic that you're working towards. And so we look at a launch strategy for you as well, and you end up with a wonderful plan of anything else that you need to do. And again, you've got that additional 6 months of support and access to me. So in essence, you're going to be creating a solid business infrastructure, right? You're going to be planning and creating your customer base. Who are your customers? Where are they? Making sure you have a niche. They're like independent social workers are a dime a dozen, right? In the UK especially. And so how are you going to make yourself different from everyone else? Okay. And you're going to learn how to bring in revenue every month consistently. You're going to serve and empower your clients to be repeat clients. You're going to learn how to market yourself and network like a pro so you can become well known. And so people will flock to you. You'll be getting DMs in your people messaging you in your DMs asking for your services. You're going to learn how to balance your personal life and your business life as well effortlessly, and you're going to decide the best time, as I said, to move forward into your independent social work CEO status. And most importantly, you're going to learn how to enjoy the journey of independence, because it is fun and it is enjoyable. And so these are the different ways in which that you can work with me. And I want you to DM me or put something in the comments if you want more information. A lot of people end up DMing me because they just find that a better way to communicate with me, and they can ask questions, and I'm okay with that. Go ahead and DM me or put it, but I encourage you to put it in the comments, because you'll find that other people might have a similar question, and it's great if I can answer it there, because then they can come out of the woodwork or get the information too. So those are the ways that you can work with me, in which all of this that we have learned, we can move it forward and actually start getting you on the trajectory of change in a place where you want to be. And you can absolutely utilize all of this information and apply it to different areas of your life. Yeah. So this isn't just about social work and becoming independent, although it's a great way for you to use it for that, but you can use it for anything, any area of your life. So I really hope I've enjoyed this 10 days. I've enjoyed spending this time with you. I've enjoyed getting to know so many more people and so much more of you. And if you would like to become part of the Launchers community, which is my email list, this is the email. These are the community that is the first to know everything. So anything that's going on for me, they are the first to know. They knew about this Social Workers Launched a Freedom program long before anybody else has done. And they've had an opportunity to sign up, and there have been several people that have done that. And so, you know, if you want to be part of that community where you get exclusive access to me and information, you can do so for free. And I give you a gift, which is my 5 simple steps to independent social worker status. It's a guide, workbook, and a checklist that you get directly. You get instant access to it in your email as soon as you sign up, and you'll get a separate welcome email welcoming you to the community and telling you what the community is about, and that you just hear from me every week. I don't spam you. I just send you information that's useful to help you move forward into independence. So the community is for you if you are specifically interested in becoming independent, because that's what I talk about. If you're not interested in becoming independent, you just want a social work group, it's not the group for you. It's not the community for you. Okay, you could just plug in when you see me live here. So let me answer some questions. I'm just going to check. I haven't, I'm not on the YouTube channel, so I can't see, although I'm streaming there, I can't see any questions. But if you are on there, please do put some questions, and I will go in there after this live and check. I just can't check at this moment at the same time because of how my live stream is structured. Hello to those that are saying hello. Thank you, Manda. You've said this is very informative, and you've asked, I was wondering, would it be possible for you to do this session on Zoom platforms or Microsoft Teams? So yeah, we can talk about that. Tell me what you had in mind. If you want me to present to a team or something like that, you can absolutely hire me to do that. I have some speaking engagements coming up actually within social work and for organizations. So yeah, I do that. So just DM me, Manda, and tell me what you have in mind, and I will gladly do that. So yes, we have come to the end. We have come to the end of the 10 days. And thank you for those of you that have joined on Instagram and are waving at me. Sarah said, thank you for the journey. It's made me realize it's very important to have work-life balance. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. Work-life balance is everything. And I've learned that on my journey of independence, because I started out on a poor trajectory of working myself like a donkey, the way I was when I worked in the local authority. And it took me a while before I got into the gist of, like, Nicole, why are you doing this? You like, you're the boss. You don't have to be working like this. You make the rules, you set the pace. So it's really important that you're taking care of yourself. And so I do that now, and I love it. Robert has said you're interested in the Goal Crusher Accountability Group. Absolutely brilliant, Robert. So I'm hoping that as long as there are some other people that are also interested, we will be able to do that. If we don't, then I will think of something else that we can do for you, okay? And if you haven't, Robert, I don't think you've booked a breakthrough session with me. It's a free breakthrough session where we talk about where you are right now, where you want to get to, what you're trying to achieve. And I look at how I can help you in that. And you can book that with me. You can just go on to, where have I got it? You can see it on any one of my bios. You're on Facebook. So if you go onto my profile in the About section, or even if you go onto my website, the link tree, you can click the link tree and it will take you there. There'll be a breakthrough session link for you to book in the calendar, okay? And we can get you started at least while you wait. So thank you for all of you that have joined. If you have any questions about the social workers launched a freedom program, about the consultations, anything, please do get in touch with me. Question, Sarah says, how often do you roll out the 6-month program? Once a year. So if you miss the boat now, I'm not sure when I'm going to do it again. And I doubt I'm going to do it again this year after enrollment opens. And enrollment is not like enrollment closes come the end of March, right? So the doors shut and they won't open again until next year, likely. It depends on the demand as to whether or not I will make people wait for a year. I don't know. But that's where it stands at the moment. The program is very comprehensive. When I had it open last time, I would have done it last year, but the pandemic kind of threw everyone, and I was like, hell no, I'm not doing this right now. Let's just find my feet. Okay. And so I deferred it just so I gave myself some time and headspace and did a lot of self-care stuff. But the year before, when I did that, I've got people all over Africa, people in the US, people here in the UK. And one of my greatest students that I'm really plugged into and really proud of in South Africa is completely independent now after not knowing anything about independence. She's done the program and she has her counseling practice open, and we're now working together on developing it even further, where she's now going into partnerships with other organizations and things like that. So I'm really excited for her. So it's going to be a great time. I've added more things to it from the last time I ran it. So we're going to have an amazing time. It is brilliant. And I'm hoping that many of you will join it so I can serve you and support you. It's a great way for me to utilize and maximize my time. There are options for you to work with me on a one-to-one basis as well. And that fast tracks you. That's a 3-month program, and there's a 2-month program. So if you want to know how you can work with me on a one-to-one to fast track your progress and just really for us to dive deep together, then you can also message me about that. So love you all. Thank you for those of you that have DM'd me, have put lovely comments under each of the videos about how you've experienced this. For those of you that have joined live and participated and interacted with me, for those of you that have contacted me either in the messages or DM saying that you'd like me to do talks for you, I am really grateful, and I'm looking forward to serving you and your community and adding value. And yeah, just thank you. This has been a wonderful time. I've got a lot out of it myself, and I'm really excited about moving all of this forward. So I've been with you on this journey, and there've been things that I've written down for myself every day as well. And I have put them in here, but I'm going to be transferring them into here, because although we have them for March, I want to continue this, building upon this as well myself. And the reality is I might not get all of it done in March. I'm going to prioritize which ones are for March and then put the rest through the next quarter. And I encourage you to do the same. And if you want to get the planner, this planner is out now, available. I have got a digital copy I'm going to be making available soon. It's not yet available, but it will be. I'll let you know when it is available. Get the planner for now and get started. So I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care for now. Love you all. Bye.